Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Our next guest comes from all the way on the West Coast because a lot of you guys know that I'm located in Orlando. Jessica, where are you coming from?
I'm coming from San Antonio, Texas.
And I remember, Jessica, that when I spoke to you last time, you said you can't dream what you've never seen. And your job is to make sure every kid sees more. You started as a site coordinator because of the basketball coach's recommendation, and now you're running the whole operations. What did your upbringing as a first gen graduate actually teach you about opportunity? Because that's what you fight for nowadays is opportunity.
Yeah, so, I was raised by a single mom who, worked hard and did everything she could to be in our lives and to support us the way she knew how. And education was always important. And so I grew up on the south side of San Antonio and really, and for those, for not familiar, south side of San Antonio, kind of a middle to lower, socioeconomic, working families, working people who are, just making it every day. And so, really, it just school was important to me. But it wasn't until I moved and had exposed to a lot of new things, and didn't realize that those were things that maybe not all of us are exposed to. And I don't know that I really thought about it that way at the age of 15
Yeah.
and things of that nature. But really growing up, and my mom did not graduate from high school. She was part of that generation who really school was not something that was supporting her and her ability to be who she was. And so, whatever circumstances, it doesn't mean it wasn't important. It just didn't happen. And so beyond high school, I was the first of my family, between my sister and I, to graduate from high school. But then, but when we moved, I was exposed to lots of different things. There was like these rivals of families of, Auburn, Alabama, A&M, Texas. And I mean, I had never heard of those kind of rivalries and didn't even understand them. And I, was taken to all these football games at UT and by a family, and got to travel. Being athletic, I got to travel and do some things with, my athletic team. And so just that exposure just made me really dream like this is really what I want to do. And I don't know why I didn't have that exposure before. And so for me, that is why I always talk about being able to see it makes you
Yeah.
really feel like, okay, that's my opportunity. And so that's my choice, is to really want to give that to all kids no matter what. And
And
maybe
that's
maybe
why
it just happened, but I'm so grateful that it did.
uh, that's what made you commit so for so many years, to the same mission, is that we do get to experience life differently than a lot of people, especially from those that maybe went to school with, or as you mentioned, those that come before us, and to know that we've had the opportunity. I'm always believing that it's not about us, right? Life teaches us to continue to pass along. And if you're a person of faith, like God only gives you enough, so you can pour into others. So I love that everything that was being poured into you from mom, from the community, from school, that you were just taking it all in. At some point, you knew you wanted to do something better with and greater with all these resources and tools. And that's exactly what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit more about what the organization is doing, the resources and the tools that you guys are actually bringing right to the schools?
Yeah, so really what we do is we just become a part of that campus. We embed what we call a site coordinator, and this is a staff. We're not bringing educators. We feel like the schools bring in
Yeah.
educators, and so what we're bringing in are staff who have a background in social work, counseling, and we're coming into the school where more likely those communities have had less opportunities. And so we're trying to give our kids an opportunity to have access to supports that maybe they need in order to overcome anything that might be getting in the way of their success at that moment, but of their future success. We don't want something that we could have managed and taken care of now that get in the way of maybe the future of that child's education or anything of that nature. So what we integrate our staff. It's called Integrated Student Support Services. They are part of that school every day. Our students know that we're going to be at that campus every day, and we are there to really think about what are all the other needs besides their academic. We can't leave the academic alone, but what are the other needs that are getting in the way? And so we're there to really support them. As easy as beginning of school, which is where we are right now.
Hmm.
I didn't have all the supplies I needed. Well, guess what? We have supplies here ready for you. And that's a vulnerable thing to say to somebody, to an adult, that, I couldn't, maybe we couldn't afford it, but this isn't about judgment. It's about helping you when you needed it and helping support you. And so we want to get that issue out of the way and want you to get a good start, fresh start, whatever you need to do to be really academically successful. So as small as that, which seems small, but is big for our kids to be able to say that. And that just starts the relationship. And I think for us, that's what it's about, is just really having that relationship and being able to address the needs that our kids have, and not just the academic need, but also being a support for the campus. So teachers see everything.
Yeah.
They see the needs of their students and they want to take care of the needs of their students. And so we're like, we're here. Use us to help you to be the best teacher that you can and being able to support all your students. So that's really what we're doing across the city. We're in over 120 campuses where we have really staff who work at the school every single day, really just trying to support kids' pathway and just getting rid of those obstacles that are in the way of that vision, and then also increasing that vision. We want them to see more and see the potential for more.
And you mentioned like the small things, right? Those small things really lead to bigger things when we think about it. You think about not being prepared, whether that is school supplies, whether that's the meals that you didn't have in the morning, someone pouring into you. Why these little things, it really adds up to big things.
Yes.
I am one of those students that I've always feel, and I love to speak on it because I went to school and maybe I wasn't prepared all the way. And maybe people looked at me as a troubled student. And, I was always in and out and talking to teachers in any kind of way. But that life was happening, And I think until we have organizations like you that just meet people at where they're at. And then you put in so many different, like, models that you guys work with these kids, allowing them to really remove barriers before a child even has to ask for help. Like, how do you guys do that?
Yeah, well, one is by being in the school every day, right? We want our kids to know that there's consistency, because sometimes you don't see the same people in your life, the same people who are going to listen and be there and kind of see you in your stages and your good days and your bad days. So that starts. That's why that embedded, integrated student supports is really so critical in working with our students. But then also integrating with the school. So we're not this silo. We're working with the school. Like, how can we be helpful? We've also, where we can, we add additional services. So we have mental health clinicians who come in, and it's really about access. It's about making it easier for our families and for our students to have accessible services where they're not having to go through a million hoops to be able to do something that there really could be beneficial. So we bring clinicians to the school and support the needs of our students if that's the need. We bring STEM activities. We have a STEM program. And it's really, like I said, it's really about trying to have accessibility for things that our kids may not have every day, but also helping our parents not have to jump through hoops for things that they know would benefit their child. So we do all this in partnership with the parent. We have a consent to work with our students. Parents are a part of that process. If the parent is having some needs that we can support, we also do that as well. So I think it's really, first of all, about relationships, though, being there every day and our kids knowing and our families knowing. I know we had a parent who talked about our clinical services one day, and she talked about how she knew if CIS was there, she could always just go and ask, where should I go and what can I do? And so it's really about relationships, building trust, building understanding with our families, that we're here to support them and their child, because in the end, their children are the most important things to them. I mean, they're what they do. And so we just want to be that support. And so I think that's really what starts it. It's relationships. It's about being there at the right time, providing the right opportunities for the need that really that child is experiencing or that family is experiencing.
I love that. And then for those that may want to know exactly how broad this organization is, if I'm not mistaken, hopefully my numbers are correct, 14 districts, 5 different counties. Is that what it is that you spread across? Or we're in a
Yes.
new school year, it could have grown. Where are
Yes,
we now?
For San Antonio, we are in 14 different districts. We're in 5 different counties across our area. And, we're part of a state network and we're part of a national network. But here in San Antonio, so we serve all of the San Antonio and Bexar County areas. If you want to look at a map to see kind of what San Antonio, and then we serve some surrounding areas, including as far as Uvalde and maybe a little bit outside of Bexar County as well, some areas. So yes, I started. We were like in 4 schools, and there was maybe 10 of us, and so now we're in over 120 schools, and we have close to 300 staff. So it's really about being there consistent. We've been walking with our school districts this whole time, working through how do we partner together. We're a nonprofit, we're not a school.
Yeah.
That's when I started, that was unique. That was different. And so so this is going on my 36th year with Communities in Schools. So I definitely have seen the difference in how we have been able to work together, and how it's just much more integrated, and where schools see a gap, if we can fill that gap, help us do that. We also don't pretend to do it alone. So in those years, we've been able to bring partners along with us. If they do it, if they specialize in something and our kids need it, then how can we work together? So that's
How
about
important
bringing
is
the
that?
community into the school.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention, Jessica. So many organizations, nonprofits, are scared to collaborate, are scared to partner up. You're not afraid of it. You see the need. You've done it, which has allowed you guys to grow to where you guys are at today. Can we talk about how important it is to stop having it ego-driven organization and really be able to partner up with those that really can make a difference? Because that's all it is make an impact. How do we come together and make impact? Can you talk on how important that is and has
Yeah,
been
I
for
don't.
you?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, first of all, we were built to collaborate. So the first thing we ever do is we go into a school that doesn't belong to our system, and so we start with partnership from the moment we walk into a school. So that's how we were built. Now, I will say I don't. I think most nonprofits really do want to collaborate, but it's not easy. It takes a lot more work. It takes much more communication. It just does. It just requires that effort. But for us, we know we can't do it all. We know we can't specialize in everything that our kids need. And if we have the one thing in common, it's that we want the best for our kids. And if that's the common factor, then we'll work through all the hard work that makes it work. So we're grateful for the community around San Antonio. It is a very collaborative community. It doesn't take the work away. So we still have to make that effort. But if we keep the kids at the center and our families at the center, then you recognize right away that there's a way to help other people through partnership, because you can't do it alone. And our families recognize that, and our families appreciate that. So I think that's what keeps you working through the hard part, is knowing that it's the kids and our families at the center of what we're trying to do. So, but I'm not ignoring the fact that it's work. So,
No, it definitely a lot of work, and you see it time and time again because of the work that has to be put. I think that's where people kind of fall off a little bit. Like you start there and then it just kind of falls off. But communication, right? Patience,
right.
is also key there. But I just love that you didn't just you didn't chase a paycheck. You chase purpose. You've been doing this for so many years, and I can imagine that what really fills your cup is the students' stories. Right? Do you have any of those stories that have kept you going for 36 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the stories, obviously, that I experienced, and it's so funny. We're celebrating our 40th year for Communities in Schools of San Antonio.
Wow.
And so we were just doing a slideshow. So I was pulling out pictures, and it was just great, like to see some of my kiddos that were back in middle school who are now like in their 30s, and just remembering their experiences and how proud we were for their wins, right?
Hmm.
Small wins, big wins, and it just took me back. And I have a student who. I worked with her and her family. Just, she was doing a lot to help her family, and which made her late to school at times. And so rather than that being a punishment for being late, what we recognize is just to check in with her, and mom and I worked together to make sure. So this kiddo, for years, I would have a message on my work phone every Mother's Day, just reminding me Happy Mother's Day.
Oh.
And it was for years, even as an adult, and she'd keep up with me, just letting me know. Like she fought hard, and she ended up getting her degree at her own pace, at wherever she needed, but she never lost that sight and that vision for her. Moving into this role as when you get into more management, you kind of get distance. So I get to go to some sites and go meet with her, and I just listening to them. One makes me, it makes me like miss that being able to see the kids, but just watching them be so excited of their kids' success reminds me like, oh my gosh, this is why we do the work that we do. And so, yeah, that is really what we do. And we really know that our work every day has a long-term effect. I am grateful that I've been here long enough that some kids have come back to say hello and have been able to do that. We've seen some of our alumni. Obviously, the president of our national office is alumni of San Antonio. So, but not everybody gets to see their work like that every day, right? They don't get to see the end result. And so us telling the story that yes, it is worth it, like it really does make a difference, keeps people in the work, and it keeps people really just fighting for our kids and making sure like it may be a little seed that you just planted, but I promise it's going to grow. Just keep, just keep planting those seeds. And so I get that. I fill my bucket by going and visiting some of my sites and really talking to them, and not just hearing the story, but watching how proud they are of the kids that they're working with, the student success. Just absolutely fills the bucket.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. What does it mean to you? I mean, you mentioned just kind of being able to plant the seed, water them, see them really manifest. What does it mean for you to see that and be the person for someone else that you wish you had?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes everything that working here, I felt like I stayed here for 36 years, and most people don't have that. And, a lot of people go different places, but it's always been it's fit my personal mission, right? I want for all kids to have the same opportunities and the same exposure, and they don't have to go anywhere. Wherever they are is what they should be able to have those opportunities. So it fits that personal mission that somebody did that for me, and I want to be able to be a part of giving that back to somebody else. And it fit my professional mission. Everyone wants to keep growing as a professional, right? Continuing to be able to help others and grow and learn and do things like that. So I think I'm just blessed, honestly, that I get to do that. And more importantly, it's the personal one that I think if it didn't resonate with me personally, I don't know that I would have been here 36 years. But there's no doubt that what we do is what I had wanted to do for other kids. I have my own kids, and I feel like my own personal kids, I feel like everything I do for them is what I would expect for all of the kids that we have. And so, like, my son is in the second year in college. My daughter's going into graduate school. My son lives, in another state working. And so the same thing I want for them is the same thing I want for all of the kids that we work with, which is, whether it's 10,000 kids, but it's any kid that we work with. So we really want to be able to give that back.
It's huge. When I see that, like you mentioned, I want these kids, even though they're not my kids, they kind of are your kids, and you want them to have the same opportunity as your own kids.
Yes.
That's how you know it's nothing selfish. It's just who you are, as you mentioned, my mission, my values of life. You just
Yeah.
want to make sure that you're just pouring in wherever you can.
And in some case, maybe it is selfish because what are we losing out on if we don't have every kid
True.
meet their greatest potential, right? We're
True.
going to depend on these kids at some point. And what if we have the next rocket scientist, right there in that classroom? Who
Yeah.
knows what we would be missing? We should not be missing the greatest potential that
I
exists
agree.
right in front of our eyes by not watering that seed, helping them grow. So let's just say our STEM program went in and did a family night, and we just sparked the greatest interest of this one particular child that was going to solve, how to live on Mars, on the Mars competition. So,
Yeah,
so maybe to get some degree, maybe it is a little selfish for all of us who know that we're going to
true.
depend on. But no, but really, it's just wanting success. What better way to live than to live out your own dreams? And if our kids can do that, why not help?
Yeah. And I'm a big believer as well. Like as I lead the nonprofit to my old high school, and I work with these young kids. While scholarships, providing a $500 scholarship to one student is very good, but I always think about spending $500,000 to get you a good speaker that understands them, that sees them at their level. Where now you can speak to 100 kids, as you mentioned. It takes just one story, it takes one moment, one conversation to change a kid's life. As you mentioned, that STEM, right? It could spark somebody you never even knew that that person was so sparked by that, but they just went out and did it because of that moment.
Yeah.
I can imagine someone sparked something, interest in your mind by saying something that allowed you to go down this avenue. And same for me. Sometimes we don't realize it until we have that one conversation. Someone that believes in us more than sometimes we believe in ourselves. And
Yeah.
I can imagine that continues to happen even as a leader. We're always being inspired by the next generation. We're always being inspired by other leaders. Who are those leaders that inspired you to be where you're at today? Do you recall any of those? Teachers,
Um,
moms?
well, I mean, first, my mom, absolutely, as a single mom, I don't know that I knew what I was missing if I was missing anything.
Hmm.
My mom worked hard. She did all she could to provide for us. We had our extended family, and so she was my softball coach, my coach at home. You know, she was my first example, and so I have to start with her. And then I was a big athlete, so my coaches really made a big influence, and also you can learn from maybe those who you don't want to be influenced, and so
True.
but so I had some, so it made my really good coaches really elevate, like it really helped me to see what I want to be for somebody else. And so I had some great coaches and people who believed in me and really inspired me to really think bigger of myself, because I don't know that I saw myself. And then some other family friends, they would take me to the UT games, University of Texas games, and students, if any student listens to this, do not follow this advice. It was the only school I applied for because I was determined that I was going to go there. After this family just invested in me to show me this other part of the world, right? And so I was going. I don't know how I was going to go. My mom didn't know anything about applying to college. I was going to figure it out. I worked 3 jobs. There were professors who really took me under the wing. So it was. I've had mentors and people who believed me at all walks of my life. I remember my 6th grade teacher. To this day, we still communicate. And I won the spelling bee. She took me all over the school to make sure everybody knew that I won. She was so proud. And I just still remember that, right? And just somebody who really believes in you and is excited for you and is championing you. And I've had it in my professional life, people who took me aside and said, you're gonna come under my wing, and I'm gonna expose you to new opportunities, and they did. And so everyone has those, and we need to be that for others. That's the most important lesson for me, is that I need to be that for others,
Yeah.
because people invested in me, and I don't know that I would be in this place without them, because I don't know that I would have thought myself
Yeah.
in this place. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, 100%. I'm with you on the. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna make it happen, and hopefully people take away from that, like that resilience to just never give up. Sometimes we don't know what the outcome is going to look like, but we just know that we're never going to give up. That we have this dream. That we have this. I'm with you on it because sometimes I don't know why I'm doing it. I just knew that it was. It just my heart is telling me to do it, and you
Right.
just do it,
Yeah.
and it just works out in that way. You're talking about continuing the cycle of giving. There's cycles that you break, but there's cycles you continue. You're
Mm.
continuing the cycle that really
Yes.
matters, right? There's so many cycles that matter, and this one it really truly does. I'm so excited that you spent 36 years of your life, literally the sacrifice of your life, where you could be doing probably greater things, but what greater than to pour into other young individuals that one day will come to you, Jessica, and say thank you so much. And I'm pretty sure you're already, hearing it. How long have you been the president of this organization?
About 8 years or 9 years. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, whoa, time has flown. So about 8 or 9 years. So, um,
What are some of the things that you've implemented in the last 8 years? I think when sometimes when you're not at the head of the table, you have all these bright ideas, and sometimes you can't actually get them to move forward. But is there any ones that you got to the head of the table? You said, no, these got to move forward. This is going to make a difference in our organization.
yeah, I mean, I think that probably the biggest growth that we've had is really about bringing clinical services, school-based clinical services. We've continued, working at our site coordinators, being present at schools, doing that. But hearing from our site coordinators the needs that they see and what we needed to do to serve, students in all sorts of needs, I think probably the area that if you look at us, besides growth in schools, which is where we were always going to do, that was always our goal. I don't know that we anticipated. We tried maybe 15, 16 years ago. Let's do one clinician. Let's see how that helps our site coordinators serve with their students. And from there, we're like at about 50 clinicians now. And so I think not just bringing the clinicians, which is, counseling services to the students at the school, not just bringing them, but also helping schools understand how to work within that, how to bring that together, because that wasn't something that was being offered across the board. And so it's almost like a systems change as well as access to services. So I would say that's probably the biggest change that the biggest growth that I've seen besides number of schools that I've seen in my time here as an agency. And, also being able to serve like some specialized services. We have a staff embedded in a shelter where families are feeling housing insecurity, and being able to have a staff there supporting families to make sure that their kids are still going to school and keeping that framework. And so, yeah, so I think it's been probably the thing that I've seen the most is just really our clinical and really just bringing in supports in a non-traditional way wherever it's needed, and not just, well, we only do this, so we can't do it any other way, and being able to bring flexibility and just new thoughts to how do we help all kids, regardless of their circumstances. What can we do to support their academic success and their dreams?
And you mentioned new thoughts and continue to innovate and continue to just grow. Obviously, AI being something that a lot of organizations are looking on how to adapt to figure out, whether it's communication, whether it's take care of admin. Like, where do you guys fall in line of AI? Is that something that you're also looking into, tapping into?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at AI from an organizational perspective, from an administrative perspective. How can we work smarter, right? And use, and try to be online. We haven't done much yet to kind of look at AI around our students and things of that nature, because we need to follow along with where our schools are going to lead that. But for us, we have started from our departments looking at how do we use it to make us smarter, to continue to move forward, just to be more effective with the tools that AI does bring, because it does bring tools. We've been looking at data analysis on how do we use AI with some data analysis, and things like press releases, things of that nature. So we are trying to make sure, as a nonprofit, you're working on a budget, you're working. So the smarter that we can be, we hope our funders will see that we're trying always to be more efficient and better at what we're doing, and not just being stagnant in our learning. So as an organization, we want to be an example of that, and let our funders know that we're going to use their funds in a way that we're always going to look for ways to improve. So, but we haven't really done it much yet with our students yet, because we're really needing to see kind of how our schools are going to use it, and then how can then we support that. And that's kind of where we fall in. Where are the gaps that we can help support right now?
I love this. No, I hear you, and it looks like you guys are going down the right path. I mean, it looks like they have a great leader. Not a lot of people, when you say AI, some people are still in fear, but you're realizing, no, wait a minute. I love it. I can see that it helps us with repetitive tasks. Who wants to do admin? If we can help do admin, let's help there too. So I love that you guys are at least going down that route. And I think that there's so much opportunity that you guys that you guys have that really could be implemented in so many different organizations, such as how do you replicate the embedded model in their own communities when it comes to the CIS and what you guys are already doing? Like, I can only imagine it's kind of a plug and play. People may think too deep into it. What is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the San Antonio area, I mean, we really work alongside each of the schools, and I know our national office is doing always looking at new, unique ways of how do we create more opportunities for new communities to get CIS, right? And so, how do we do that? We also have been willing. We've actually started an affiliate school in Colorado from San Antonio once before, and
Wow.
trying to help just because we talked about kids seeing new ways, right? Or seeing, if you can't see it, you don't understand it. Well,
Mhm.
sometimes schools have never seen the way that you can, use the model and how you can use really student supports to elevate the success of our kids. So sometimes we've just got to be an example of it to let them really understand the importance of student support. So, I mean, I think for one is in the schools that we are in, we're really trying to be the message that student supports, non-academic student supports are just as important as the academic supports. So we're just that constant message, that constant message, that constant message. So even if we're not moving into more schools, but even if we do, we want the district to recognize the importance of it. And we've seen it work. We've seen that the priority of student supports needs have really taken a front and center more than they had in the past. Not that they didn't care about them, but that they created models to really build those into their process. Really looking at students' needs. And I think COVID honestly elevated that eye of what our students are facing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So
Yeah, no, for
it
sure.
always existed, but COVID just made everybody else see it in a different way. So
Mhm.
I definitely see that we are helping elevate the need for school systems, processes to include student supports in their thinking in order to see academic success for their kids.
Oh, it's working. I mean, the growth shows that it's working from where you started at and where you're at today on the counties and the schools. That's amazing. How do you see growth 10 years from now? Right? Do you see more schools? Is it more programs? Like ideally, if you could sit here
Yeah.
and kind of wave a magic wand, what would you like to see in the next 10 years?
Yeah. So if you're going to hold me to this, right? Yeah.
I am 100%. Hold you
It's
accountable.
I'm going to say it out loud. So one area is just in our, we have several. We don't have one large district in the city. We have several different districts. So one is maybe seeing saturation in the areas that need, and not just that this school has it and this school doesn't. And so, if that whole community needs the model, then how do we make sure that we're growing strategically in that way? So that's one area, and we've done that. We've seen some growth in some of our districts. We're almost saturated completely, but there's still work to do in that area. The second one is I'm going to tell you this is probably our biggest challenge, and I don't know that it's unique to us. It's really our rural communities around us. We've got to figure out how to support our rural communities even better. We face the same challenges that other people face, and just, how do you hire? How do you do this? And so I want us to be creative and thoughtful, and how do we do that in a better way?
Yeah.
For us, in Texas, in the San Antonio area, there's not there's not a communities and schools between us and the next geographic area is pretty far. So everything in between us is being missed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a challenge that we're going to have to figure out, and how do we face it? And we're going to have to be more creative, and how do we support those areas? So, okay, friend, you're holding me to that because it's a
Listen,
hard.
I think that's easy for you. It's just gonna take a little time, right? It's gonna take a little time, a little patience. But now I think you being at the head of the table, you know what I love is that you are a leader that understands where these students come from, what it felt like, and you have so much experience in this space that you'll make it happen. It's going to take some time, as it has taken time to get where you're at today. But yeah, 10 years from now, put a little AI, give you some time back, right? Now you're able to buy back some time to put it where you really need to. And I truly love it, and I love for people to continue to see what you guys are doing. What is your website? What are the social medias where we could be able to connect with you?
Our website is www.cissa.org. So CIS is for Communities and Schools and SA San Antonio. So
Very good. And social media?
cissa.org.
Instagram, Facebook?
Oh gosh, our Instagram is, yes, we are on Instagram and we are on Facebook as
I'm pretty sure
well.
they can find it on their website. No
You
worries.
can
I'm
go to
pretty sure
our
they can get to the
website and there's a whole
website.
section that shows all of our social media
And
because we
about
just redid our website. So go visit it.
go and check out that website. Yeah, yeah, no worries. And then when it comes to you personally, are you on LinkedIn? Where can people connect with you if they want to know more about you and pick your brain, or maybe even take what you already that model that you have and implement it somewhere else? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, one is you can go to our website and connect with me easily from that perspective, and I am on LinkedIn, and so you can connect with me there as well. But absolutely, I'm pretty easy to find on our website. If anyone's interested, we would love to be able to have a conversation. I mean, you don't even need to be from this area because we can connect you to other places in the United States through our national office, and any places across our Texas, we can connect you to somewhere there too. So yeah, we have someone that if you really want to have a conversation about how to bring student supports to your school or to your community, we really would be willing to have those conversations.
I appreciate it. Well, I'll leave you with this blind question. And by the way, I'm probably one of those that would probably call you. I'm always thinking about, from the nonprofit perspective, is how do we get more involved? Like, I love handing out scholarships, but we hand out, what, 10 scholarships? What happened to all the other students? And that's why I said if I can fill an auditorium with a guest speaker that was also an alumni to the school that can speak on what it was to come out of this community and where I'm at today, I'm a big believer that it changes people's lives. But different programs, what you guys are having, right? Like, how cool would it have been that this existed when I was in school? I had a counselor tell me, Ephraim, you might as well get a 9 to 5 job because school wasn't for you. Just imagine I had the organization that you guys had at the school. Like, no, Ephraim, that's not true. You could do whatever you want to. And luckily, I did have some people around me that were really positive and just me in general, just knowing that, like, honestly, don't even remember that. It was my school secretary that I'm still friends with. She was at the school for 36 years, finally retired. But she remembered that I said that to her. I didn't remember, right? To me, it was just one ear and out the other. But to her, it was everything because she's like, how can someone tell this kid that? And she would always remind me, Ephraim, I'm so happy that you're running this nonprofit because remember when, this such and such said this? I'm like, I don't, but I can't believe it. Here I am. She forgot to tell me the rest of the part of my story, right? Yeah, maybe school wasn't for me. You're right. But I had the rest of the world to go conquer. So I appreciate the work that you do and just be
Thank you.
willing to just give the secret sauce. Not that
Yeah,
it's probably secret, but people just not going to do the research. It's just simple as it is.
yeah.
So I
And
appreciate you.
everyone can be involved in some way.
Yeah,
There's a
100%.
connection.
So I leave you with this blind question, Jessica. What's one moment when a student really taught you something that changed the way that you lead forever?
Um, I think that it's a hard story, but I think that I had a student who was really involved in a lot of activity that wasn't going to be in its best interest for the long run. And we were able to get him involved from an academic side at a way that really challenged him a little bit more. And he had the potential that nobody else saw. They only saw the outward behavior in him. And I'm going to tell a story that this student decided he was going to join track. And a bunch of the track members got these brand new cleats, and he got an old pair. And he really reacted to that. And the coach just did not understand that reaction. And I talked to the coach and I said, just think about how much he is trying to get into new spaces that he had never been, and you made him different again. And that experience for him, you just continued to give a message that he wasn't deserving. You didn't mean to give that message, but that was the message that
Yeah.
he heard. So I think that story always resonated with me in the sense of that sometimes we just see the outside of what either a reaction or a behavior or what someone says, and we don't take time to understand the inside of what we could potentially either help somebody feel differently or we help somebody feel worse. And so, because we don't really take the time to understand their story,
Hmm.
so this kiddo always he did amazing. He ended up in we ended up putting him in accelerated classes. He really was able to work with the coach and talk about it. The coach listened, which is another thing, right?
Yeah.
He really did listen, and we really talked about it. Never did he intend for that to be the message, but I think it helped me to understand that, sometimes we just got to take time and understand the story, and not make assumptions of what that story is really about.
Because everybody has their own story. You know,
Hmm.
I was 30 years old, maybe a little bit over 30. I can't remember exact age, but in my 30s, when I finally told my brother that, really my cousin, but I was adopted by my aunt, so that was my brother. But growing up, he would always say things like, "You were picked up off the street. You were adopted for the money," and I remembered that through my whole life,
Hmm.
and it wasn't, and I resented him for saying that to me, because for the individual that was actually going through it, me, it was hurtful. I
Hmm.
already felt like I was a little less than and all these other things. So when I told him that, I confronted him about it because we were building a relationship, and I realized that he's a changed person. So I mentioned it to him. He's like, "Man, I'm so sorry. Like that was never my intentions. To me, it was just being funny." And I had to let him know, for you, it was funny, because you had your mom and you didn't have to live what I was going through. But for me, it
Yeah.
was so hurtful that to this day, that hurt me. And I feel like that's what, the anger comes from, and all these different the ways that we react because we hear these things. So I love that that was a story that you brought, because so many of us, we don't
Thank
listen
you.
enough,
Yeah.
right? We don't ask enough questions. We just kind of go based off how we live in our life, but everyone lives so differently. Everyone has a story. And
Yeah.
if you just take that time to figure out, why did you act like that? It's like kids, right? When I got a little 4-year-old, when she starts to just go crazy, why are you acting like that? And you really got to go
Please
back to
help
that
me.
dad says.
Please help me.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being so open and sharing that story, because I think a lot of people can definitely resonate with that leadership growth that you had in that moment, and we can all learn from it. What is your blind question for the next leader we have here on the Heart and Hustle?
Yeah, so that was a hard one, my friend. So it was like one question. I think for me, just because this is what I do every day, and I always wonder, like, what are other perspectives? Like, how do we support all students' success, regardless of their circumstance? How do
Okay,
we do it for all?
I love it.
I think that's the bigger question. How do we do it
That
for
is.
all?
How do we do it for all? No,
Hmm.
100% agree. I actually love that question. And I'm hoping that we get another educator or somebody in the nonprofit space to really be able to answer that question. But Jessica, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, for allowing us to have this conversation. I know that you have plenty of other things to do, but you took the time to really just kind of pour into us today and just learn a little bit more about what you're doing in the school systems, in and out of the school, actually, because it looks like you're doing more work in and out of the school. And may you continue to just grow. And I can't wait to have this conversation again, and that you tell me, guess what, Efrain? We're in the rural communities and we're building, and it
Yeah,
didn't
you're
take
gonna
10
hold me
years,
to
all
that.
right? Well, guys, if you guys are still watching, make sure you guys do like, share, subscribe. These are the conversations that we love to have nonprofit leaders. I know we're in a difficult time when it comes to what's happening within our government, but there's still organizations that are really have this mission of making the world a better place, and it starts with us as community members. And it's not always just having to gift monetary, but just being able to volunteer, just be able to listen, just be able to speak into our students. That makes a difference. We all had our past, and now we're here in our present, and some of us so successful. Don't forget to go back to those communities where you grew up in and pour back into them, because it truly does make a difference. Jessica, we thank you so much. My name's Efrain. This is Jessica Weaver. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.
Thank you.